today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this fun crochet baby blanket made from lots of multicoloured Sunburst granny squares. This video is going to be broken down into a few parts, so I'll link the timestamps below in the description box. If you're looking to skip to any part of the tutorial and find the exact spot you're looking for, please make sure to check them out. Measuring 33.5 by 28 inches, which is 85 by 71 centimetres, this is an easy pattern and I'll take you through every step. However, if you'd like to follow along to the written instructions, I have a free pattern on my website, and you can also purchase a printable PDF version of this pattern in my shop. Everything is linked below for you to check out. This is a fun project to work on, so let's dive into the tutorial now so you can try it out. I designed this blanket with Sardar Stories, which is a double knitting weight 3 yarn. It's also known as an 8-ply yarn. It comes in 50-gram balls, which is 1.8 ounces. And in every ball there's 140 metres, which is 153 yards. It's made from 60% cotton and 40% acrylic. And you can pop it in the washing machine as well. You can substitute this yarn with any other double knit yarn, for example Premier Yarns Cotton Fair, Paintbox Yarns Cotton Mix, or Rico Baby Cotton Soft. I'll list all the yarn details including the substitutions below. For this blanket I used 5 colours. I used 3 balls of this pink shade, which is the colour Bestie, which is 0841. I used 2 balls of the blue colour, which is shade Chill 0845. I used 2 balls of this off-white colour, which is Invite 0836. I used 2 balls of Dreamers 0806, which is this lovely purple colour here. And I used 1 ball of this buttery yellow colour, which is called Glow Sticks 0827. For the crochet hook, you'll need a 4.5mm hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle for weaving in your ends, and this is optional, but it's always a good idea to use a stitch marker, especially if you're a beginner. You can find details about all the materials used below in the description box, and of course they're in the free and the paid PDF patterns. The following information can be found in the free written pattern as well, but basically you're going to make 30 of these Sunburst granny squares, and there are 6 different colourways, so 6 different colour combinations in total. Once you've made all your squares and you've arranged them following the diagram, you're then going to join them together using the slip stitch seam. And this is really quick and easy, and I'll show you how to do this later on in the tutorial. So it lies completely flat. And then once you've joined the squares together, you're going to work on the border, which is nice and easy as well, and it's just basically 4 easy rounds. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. To begin, make a slip knot and pop it on your hook, and then start with a chain of 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And then I'm going to slip stitch to the very first chain here. So I'll just go through these loops here. And I've now made a ring, and we'll work our stitches into the centre of the ring here. For round number 1, you can either begin with a chain of 2, 1, 2, and that would count as your first stitch, or you can make a stacked double crochet. And to make the stacked double crochet, I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the centre of the ring here. And make sure that you work over this little yarn tail. So just pop it over your hook. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet. And then to make the stacked double crochet, I'm going to insert my hook, and I'll just show you with my needle. I'm going to insert my hook into this side bar here. So you have the top of the single crochet here, the V-stitch. I'm just going to go into that side bar here, and I'm going to work another single crochet. And this is my first stitch here. It just makes it a bit easier to work into when you come to the end of the round. And I'm just going to pop my stitch marker into the top of that stitch there. And then I'm going to work 15 double crochet back into the centre of the ring. So working another 15 double crochet. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 15. So I've just made my 15 double crochet, and including the very first stitch that I made here, that gives me a total of 16 stitches at the end of round number 1. And then to join the round, I'm going to make an invisible join. So I'm going to cut my yarn. And then pull the yarn through. You can, if you like, slip stitch to the first stitch, but I'm just going to make an invisible join. It'll make it easier when I do round number 2. So I'm going to thread my yarn through my needle. And then I'm going to skip the first stitch here, and I'm going to come over to the next stitch here. And I'm going to insert my needle under both loops, like this. And I'm going to come from the back through to the front. So I'm going to pull the yarn through. And I'm just going to remove this stitch marker now. And then I'm going to come to this stitch here where my yarn is coming out from. And I'm going to insert my needle through the front loop here. And then I'm just going to pick up that little side bar. Pull the yarn through. And then I'm just going to tug on it slightly, and then I'm just going to insert my needle back through, back under these 2 loops here. And then I'm just going to go through this little loop here at the back. And I've made my invisible join there. I'm then going to weave my yarn tail into the back of my work. And then to close the gap in the middle, I'm just going to pull on the yarn tail that we worked over and close the gap in the middle. For round number 2, grab the next colour and make a slip knot and pop it on your hook. And insert your hook through any stitch, so just going through the top of the stitch here. And I'm going to make a single crochet. And then I'm going to insert my hook through the sidebar of that single crochet. So I'll just show you again with my needle. Here's the top of the stitch, the V, and I'm just going to insert my hook through this sidebar here. So insert your hook through that sidebar, pull up a loop, and you'll have 2 loops on your hook, but I'm not going to complete it. Instead, I'm going to yarn over hook, and I'm going to insert my hook back into the same stitch. And I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'll have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. I'll have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. And I've just made my first 2 double crochet cluster stitch. And I'm just going to put a stitch marker into the very top of that stitch. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1. And I'm going to come over to the next stitch here. I'm going to work over this yarn tail, and I'm going to yarn over hook, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. I'll have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. I'll have 2 loops, then yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And there's my 2 double crochet cluster. I'll do that again, chain 1, move along to the next stitch here, and we'll work our 2 double crochet cluster again. So yarn over hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, you'll have 2 loops, then yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch, pull up a loop, you'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. There's your 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1. So we're going to work this sequence all the way around into the top of every stitch. So at the end of the round you should have 16 of these cluster stitches. So I'll show you again, moving on to the next stitch, yarn over hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, then yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and there's your 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1. So I'm going to work my 2 double crochet cluster stitches all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the beginning of the round. I've made my 16 cluster stitches all the way around. So I made my last cluster into the last stitch here, and I made a chain of 1, and I'm going to come to the top of the first cluster stitch where my stitch marker is. So I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to join the round with a slip stitch. And that's the end of round number 2. So you should have a total of 16 of these cluster stitches, all separated by a chain 1. And I'm going to make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn, pull the yarn through, and we're now ready to begin working on round number 3. For round number 3, grab the next colour, make a slip knot and place it on your hook. And I'm going to insert my hook through any chain 1 space, and we finished off here, so I'm just going to insert my hook into the first chain 1 space here, and I'm going to begin with 1 single crochet, so there's my single crochet, and then I'm going to do the same thing that we did at the beginning of this round, round number 2. I'm going to insert my hook into the sidebar of that stitch, so in here, and then I'm going to pull up a loop. I'll have 2 loops on my hook. I'm not going to finish off the stitch. Instead, I'm going to yarn over hook, insert my hook back into the same chain 1 space here, pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 3 loops, and I'm going to do that again, yarn over hook, insert my hook back into the same chain 1 space, pull up a loop. You'll have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 4 loops on your hook, And then I'm going to do that one more time. Yarn over hook, insert your hook back into the same chain one space, pull up a loop. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. And when you have the 5 loops on your hook, you'll yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And we've just made our first 4 double crochet cluster. And then make a chain of 2, 1 and 2. And then move over to the next chain 1 space, which is in here. I'm just going to work over these 2 little yarn tails. So we'll work another 4 double crochet cluster into this chain 1 space. So yarn over hook, insert your hook into that chain 1 space, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. We'll do that again. Yarn over hook, insert your hook into the same space, pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Do that again, yarn over hook, insert your hook back into the same space, pull up a loop. You'll have 5 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. And then we'll do that one more time. Yarn over hook, insert your hook into the same space, pull up a loop. You'll have 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 5 loops on your hook. And when you have the 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. And there's our 4 double crochet cluster. Chain 2, 1 and 2. So I'm going to work this cluster into every chain 1 space all the way around, and they'll be separated with a chain 2 in between. So I'll show you again, moving on to the next chain 1 space here. I'm going to work my 4 double crochet cluster. And chain 2. So I'm going to work my 4 double crochet cluster into every chain 1 space all the way around. Remember to work your 2 chains after each cluster. I'll do this off camera and I'll meet you back at the beginning of the round. I've been working my cluster stitches all the way around, and I made the last cluster stitch in this last chain 1 space here, and to finish I'll chain 2, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to come to the first cluster stitch that I made, and I forgot to put my stitch marker in, but here's the top of that cluster stitch. This is your chain 2, 1 and 2. So the top of the stitch is just slightly off to the side here. So I'm going to work a slip stitch into the top of the cluster stitch like this. And at the end of round number 3, you should have 16 of your cluster stitches, your 4 double crochet cluster stitches. And then I'll chain 1 and cut my yarn, pull the yarn through, and you're just going to weave your yarn tail into the back of your granny square. For round number 4, grab the next colour, place a slip knot on your hook, and I'm going to attach my yarn to any chain 2 space. So I'm just going to come to this chain 2 space here, and you can either attach the yarn with a slip stitch and then make a chain of 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this would count as your first stitch. Or I'm going to show you how to make a stacked treble crochet. So I'm just going to come back to the chain 2 space, and I'm going to attach my yarn with a single crochet, and then I'm going to work another single crochet into the sidebar here, and then I'm going to work another single crochet into the sidebar of this stitch on top. And this counts as my stacked treble crochet. And I'll just pop a stitch marker into the top of the stitch. And then back into this space here, I'm going to work a further 2 treble crochet. So to work the treble crochet, yarn over hook twice, insert your hook back into the same space, pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And there's your treble crochet, and I'm going to make one more. So there's my 3 treble crochet, 1, 2 and 3, all worked into the same space. And then I'm going to come over to the next chain 2 space here, and I'm going to work over these 2 yarn tails. And into this space here, I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3. So there's my 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, all worked into the same space. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to move over to the next chain 2 space here, and I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. That's my 3 double crochet. And I'm going to do that one more time, move over to the next space and work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. There's my 3 double crochet. And then into the next chain 2 space here, I'm going to work a corner. So this is the beginning of one corner here, and we'll finish it off when we come back to the beginning. So I'm going to work a full corner into the next chain 2 space. And to work the corner, we're going to work 3 treble crochet, so there's 1, 2, and 3, then chain 2, 1 and 2, and then back into the same space I'm going to work another 3 treble crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So the corners are made up of 3 treble crochet, 1, 2, 3, a chain 2 and 3 treble crochet, 1, 2 and 3. So I'm going to repeat this sequence again. So I'm going to work 3 groups of 3 double crochet. So moving over to the next chain 2 space here, I'm going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2 and 3. Move over to the next space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2 and 3. And we'll do that for a third time into the next space, work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3. So there's 3 groups of 3 double crochet, and then into the next chain 2 space here, we're going to work another corner. So I'm going to work my 3 treble crochet, one, two, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and then 3 treble crochet back into the same chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So there's my corner there. 3 trebles, chain 2, and then 3 treble crochet. And I'm going to repeat this again. So I'm going to work my 3 groups of 3 double crochet and then a corner. So moving on to the next chain 2 space here, I'm going to work my 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochet. Move on to the next chain 2 space here, work 3 double crochet, There's 1, 2 and 3, and then we'll do that for a third time, 3 double crochet into the next chain 2 space. So there's 1, 2 and 3 double crochet. So 1, 2 and 3, and then we'll work a corner into the next chain 2 space. So there I've made another side and a corner, and then we've just got this little bit here to do. So in the next 3 spaces I'm going to work my 3 groups of 3 double crochet, and 3, and then we have to finish off our corner into this last space here. So I'm going to work 3 treble crochet into this very first chain 2 space here, and 3. There's my 3 treble crochet, and then I'm going to finish with a chain 1, and then coming over to the top of that very first stitch here, I'm going to join with 1 slip stitch. And then chain 1, I'm just going to remove that stitch marker, and then cut your yarn and pull the yarn through. And that's the end of round number 4. For the 5th and final round of our square, I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook with the next colour, and I'm going to come to the corner and into any space. I'll just pick this space here where we finished off in the last round. I'm going to insert my hook, and you can either begin with a chain of 3, 1, 2 and 3, and this counts as your first stitch, or we can make an extended double crochet. And to do that, it's like the stacked double crochet, it's slightly different. I'm going to insert my hook and make a single crochet, and then into that sidebar here I'm going to begin the next single crochet. And instead of yarning over and pulling through both loops, I'm going to yarn over and pull through just the first loop, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that's my extended double crochet. And then back into the same space, I'm going to work 2 regular extended double crochet. And to work the extended double crochet, yarn over hook, insert your hook into the same space, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through just the first loop. You'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. That's the extended double crochet. We'll work 1 more into the same space. So yarn over hook, insert your hook into the same space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just the first loop, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops, and there's my 3rd extended double crochet. So we have 1, 2 and 3, and then into each space. So we have a group of stitches here and a group of stitches here. I'm going to work into the space in between these 2 groups. So into each space I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So working over these 2 little yarn tails, move along to the space in between the next 2 groups here, and I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3. There's my 3 double crochet in between these 2 groups. Move along to the next space here in between these 2 groups and work 3 double crochet. One, 2 and 3. Move on to the next space here, work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3. Move on to the next space here and work 3 double crochet. 1, 2 and 3. And then I've come to the next corner. So into this corner we're going to work our extended double crochet, and we'll work 3 extended double crochet, a chain 2 and 3 extended double crochet. So working into this space, work 3 extended double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3, chain 2, and then back into the same space, another 3 extended double crochet. So there's 1, 2 and 3. So there's my corner, and then we're just going to repeat this all the way around. So along this side, in between each space here, you'll work your 3 double crochet, and then when you get to the next corner you're just going to work your 3 extended double crochet, chain 2 and 3 extended double crochet. So that's what you'll do in the corner, and then you'll just move along, do the next side, your 3 double crochet in between each group here, work your corner, and then work your groups of 3 double crochet in between each space. So I'm going to work this sequence off camera. It's nice and easy, and I'll work the last group here, and then I'll meet you back and we'll finish off this very first corner here together. I've been working that sequence all the way around, so nice and easy, just working your groups of 3 double crochet in between each space, and then working your extended double crochet stitches in the corners. And I finished with the last group of 3 double crochet in this space here, and I'm just going to finish the round off by completing the first corner here. So I'm going to work my 3 extended double crochet in here. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and then come over to the very first stitch here with the stitch marker, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And then chain 1 and cut your yarn. And then just weave your yarn tail into the back of your square. Once you have all your squares completed, it's time to assemble them. Here's a diagram of how I laid out my squares. Once this has been done, I like to join my squares horizontally, and I'll start from the bottom up. Then once they're joined horizontally, I'll then join them vertically. When joining, keep your tension fairly loose or size up half a hook size. This is what I did, so I used an H, which is a 5mm hook. So grab the first 2 squares, and when we're joining our squares using this method, we want the wrong sides facing out. So this is the right side and this is the wrong side here. So we want the 2 right sides. We want these to be facing inwards, and that means that the wrong sides are facing out towards you. Begin by making a slip knot and pop it on your hook, and then come to the first square here, and we have the chain 2 in the corner. 1, here's the first chain, here's the second chain here. So we want to insert our hook into that second chain just through the back loop here. And then come over to the other square here, and we'll do the same thing. You have the 2 chains, 1 and 2. So we want to insert our hook through this back loop here. So 1, 2 into that second chain here. And then we're going to work 1 slip stitch. And we've now joined our 2 squares together. And then for this stitch, we're going to be working through the outside loops. of each stitch. So if I just show you here, if you have a look at the top of each stitch here, you have this, we'll call it the outside loop, and then you have the inside loop. So we want to work through these outside loops here. So you can see on each stitch, we want to work through these outside loops. And then when we come over to the other side, so here's our first stitch here. So we have the inside loop here and then the outside. So we want to work through these outside loops here. So there's the inside and here's the outside loop. So I'm going to come to the first stitch on this square here, and I'm going to insert my hook through that outside loop and then come over to the other square at the back here, insert your hook through that outside loop and work one slip stitch. Moving on to the next stitch, go into that outside loop and then move to the square at the back and into the next stitch here, into that outside loop only, work a slip stitch. Coming back to the square on top, moving on to the next stitch, insert your hook into that outside loop, move to the square on the bottom here and insert your hook into the outside loop of the next stitch. Work a slip stitch. And this method is good because it means that you can hold your two squares together like this, so it makes it much easier when joining. So moving on to the next stitch, through that outside loop, moving on to the bottom square, insert your hook into that outside loop and work a slip stitch. I've been working my slip stitches all the way along, so I'll just show you what it looks like so far. So really nice join. Your squares will lie completely flat. This is what it looks like on the back. And when we come to the next corner here, so make sure the two right sides are facing in. So we come to the next chain two corner space, and we're just going to finish off by working into the back loop of the first chain. So if we look here, we have our chain 2, 1 and 2. We're just going to insert our hook through the back loop of the first chain. We come over to the square at the back. We have 1 and 2, first chain and second chain. So we'll just insert our hook through that back loop of this first chain here. So we'll leave these 2 chains unworked. So coming over to the square on top, insert your hook into that back loop of the first chain, come over to the square at the bottom, insert your hook through the first loop, through the back loop of that first chain here, and work a slip stitch. And then you're going to grab the next 2 squares. So I've got my next 2 squares here. So make sure that the 2 right sides are facing inward. So I have my 2 wrong sides facing out. And I'm going to, just like we did when we started at the beginning, I'm going to insert my hook. So we've got the 2 chains, 1 and 2. I'm going to insert my hook through this second chain here, through that back loop. And then coming over to the square on the bottom, we have the 2 chains, 1 and 2. So I'll insert my hook through that back loop of the second chain. And then I'll work 1 slip stitch. And then I'm just going to carry on working my slip stitches into the outside loops of each stitch. So coming over to the first stitch here, into that back loop, I'm going to insert my hook and then come over to the other side into the outside loop of that first stitch, work a slip stitch. Moving on to the next stitch here, into that outside loop. Come into the back, onto the next stitch, into that outside loop. So I'm going to continue working my slip stitches all the way along. And then I'm just going to, once I get to the end here, I'll grab my next 2 squares and then join them in exactly the same way as I joined them here. I've been working my slip stitch seam all the way along for this first panel. So I've joined all the squares together for the first strip here. And I've come to the end. So I'm just going to finish by working my last slip stitch into the first chain here. So just going through that back loop and then going over to the chain on the back square and then making that last slip stitch. And then I've already cut my yarn, but you would cut your yarn, leaving your yarn tail, and then chain 1 and pull the yarn through. And then you can just weave your yarn tail into the back of the square. So I'm just going to weave it through these little loops here and go into the pink side of the square. As you can see, I've made my first horizontal join here, and I'm working from the bottom up when I'm joining my squares. So I'm going to grab the next square here, and then just make sure that the two right sides are facing together. And I'm just going to attach my yarn in the same way as we did earlier, and just work my slip stitch seam, and I'll join each square. So if I take the next square and then put it like this and work my seam all the way along. And if you're joining your squares from the bottom down, you would just grab the next square, whatever that square was in the diagram, and then just flip it over so the two right sides are facing, and then you'll just join your yarn and you'll work your seam across and add your squares as you go along. So I'll start down in the bottom right-hand corner of the blanket. And again, we want the right sides facing inwards with the wrong sides facing out. So I'm just going to get this bottom panel here and then flip it up. And then I'm ready to attach my yarn, as we've done previously, into the back loop of the chain in the corner. Make our slip stitch and then just work our slip stitches all the way along. When we get to the section here, so I'll do this off camera, and then when we get to this junction here where the four squares meet, I'll meet you back and I'll show you how to work this little section here. I've been working my slip stitch seam all the way along, and I've come to the junction here where the four squares meet. So I've got the last stitch here on the bottom square. So I'm just going to go through that outside loop and then coming over to the last stitch on the top square here, go through that outside loop, work my slip stitch, and then here you should have one chain remaining. So one chain here on this square, and then over on the top square here, you'll have one chain remaining here. So I'm going to insert my hook through this chain first of all. And then come over to the other side, insert my hook through the remaining chain, work a slip stitch, and then we'll jump over to the next 2 squares here, and I have 1 chain on this side. So insert your hook through that chain, and then over on the other side here, I've got my other chain here. Another chain here. So I'm just going to insert my hook through that chain. And then work a slip stitch. And that's all you need to do when you get to the center section here. So you're just going to go join up your 2 remaining chains on this side, and then slip stitch through the 2 remaining chains on the other side. And then you'll just continue to do your slip stitches all the way along. So moving on to the first double crochet here, going through that outside loop, moving over to the other square, into the first stitch, into that outside loop. I worked my seam all the way along to the end, and the next seam will be this one up here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my work like this, and then I'm ready to start working on this seam all the way along here. So I'm just going to do this seam and all my other seams off camera, and I'll meet you back and we'll begin working on the border of the blanket. So once I've done this seam, then I'll move on to this one, and again it'll just be a case of folding it over like that. Then I'll work this seam, and then the very last one here, fold it all the way up like that, and I'll work the last seam. I've popped my slip knot onto my hook, and I'm going to come to the chain 2 corner space here, and I'll begin with a stacked double crochet. And I'm going to work over this little yarn tail here, and I'm going to work a further 2 double crochet back into this chain 2 space. So there's 1 and 2. So there's my 3 double crochet, 1, 2 and 3. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1. And then I'm going to jump over to the next space here, which is in between these 2 groups of 3 double crochet. So right into this space, and I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 1, and then I'm going to move over to the next space here in between the next 2 groups, and I'll work 3 double crochet, one, 2, and 3, and then a chain 1. And this is the sequence that we're going to be repeating all the way around in between each group. It'll be 3 double crochet and a chain 1. So I'll show you again. We're moving on to the next space here in between these 2 groups. 3 double crochet and a chain 1. So 3 double crochet and my chain 1. I've been working my 3 double crochet chain 1 all the way along the first square here, and then when you get to each seam where we have the 2 corners here, I'm going to show you what to do because it's slightly different. So when you get to the first corner space here where the seam is, you're going to work a treble crochet, and the treble crochet, yarn over hook twice, and then insert your hook into that chain 2 space, pull up a loop, you'll have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops left, yarn over, pull through those last 2 loops. And there's your treble crochet. And then we're going to work a treble crochet 2 together, and we'll be working this stitch over each corner space here. So to begin, yarn over hook twice, insert your hook back into the first chain 2 space here, pull up a loop, you'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, you'll have 2 loops left, and then we're not going to finish the stitch off for the treble 2 together. Instead, we're going to yarn over hook twice, and then move over to the next chain 2 space here, insert your hook, pull up a loop, you'll have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, you'll have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And that's the treble crochet 2 together. And then back into the same chain 2 space here, we're just going to work a treble crochet. So you had your treble here, treble crochet 2 together here, and then we'll make 1 more treble back in here. So the 2 sides are equal. So yarn over hook twice, insert your hook back into that chain 2 space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And this sequence here of a treble crochet 2 together and a treble, this is what you're going to work when you get to each seam area. You'll work that sequence over these two corners here. And then I'm just going to chain one, and I'll move over to the next space here. So we have a group of 3 double crochet here, a group here. So I'm just going to continue working my 3 double crochet, chain one into each space. So there's my 3 double crochet, chain one, and I'm going to work my 3 double crochet, chain one into each space. I'll get to the next seam here, and I'm just going to work that sequence. And I'm going to work this sequence all the way along the top edge, and then I'll meet you back and we'll work the next corner together. I've been working that sequence all the way along the top edge here. So I've been working my 3 double crochet, chain one in between each group here. And then when I get to the seam, I work the treble crochet 2 together, and the treble all separated by a chain one. So as you can see, this is what I've done all the way along the top edge here. And then when you get to the next corner of the blanket, so I finished with my 3 double crochet, chain one, and into this chain 2 corner space, and this is what you'll do for all the corners. So I'm going to work into each corner 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, and then a chain 2, 1 and 2, and then back into that same corner, another 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then make a chain 1. So you'll have 2 corners left. So this is what you'll do in the next 2 corners. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and then a chain 1. And I'm just going to continue working. So the sequence that I've been working all the way along the top here is the sequence that I'm going to work around the remaining 3 sides. So work your 3 double crochet, chain 1 in between each space. So moving on to the next space here. Three double crochet, chain 1. So I'll work that in between each space, and then when I get to the seam, I'll work my treble stitches. So I'm going to work the remaining 3 sides off camera, and once I get back to the very beginning again, where we started, I'm just going to show you how we'll finish off the round, and then we'll join the round together and begin working on round number 2 of the border. I've been working the sequence all the way around for round number 1. So working my 3 double crochet, chain 1 into each chain 1 space, and then my treble crochets at each seam. And I'm just going to complete the last corner here, and it's at the beginning of the round into this chain 2 space. So we made our 3 double crochet, so we just need to make another 3 double crochet in here to complete the last corner. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochet, and then we'll just make a chain 1, and then to join the round I'm going to slip stitch into the very first double crochet here. And then we've made our final corner, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and then 3 double crochet. And that's the end of round number 1 of the border. So I'm just going to chain 1 and then grab my scissors and I'm just going to cut my yarn and pull the yarn through. And we're now ready to begin working on round number 2. For round number 2, I'm grabbing my white coloured yarn here. I've made a slip knot and I've popped it on my hook here, and then coming to the corner here into this chain 1 space, I'm going to attach my white yarn. And I'm going to make my stacked double crochet. And then I'm going to work 2 double crochet back into the same space. So there's 1 and 2. And that gives me my 3 double crochet, 1, 2 and 3. And then we'll make a chain of 1. And for this round, we're just going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 into every chain 1 space here. I'm just going to work over these 2 yarn tails. So moving on to the next space here, I'm going to work 3 double crochet, so there's 1, 2, and 3, 3 double crochet, then a chain 1. Move on to the next chain 1 space. So moving on to this space here, I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and a chain 1. Moving on to the next chain 1 space here, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. When you get to your treble crochet stitches here, so we had the treble 2 together and then the treble, we're just going to work in the chain 1 spaces on either side of this little group here. So I'll work 3 double crochet, one, two, and 3, chain 1, and then go over to this chain 1 space here and work 3 double crochet, chain 1. So this is what it should look like. And when you get to each corner, into this chain 2 space here, we're just going to work exactly the same way as we did in round number 1. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet. So there's my 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet. And then chain 1. So in each corner, 1, 2, 3, and then a chain 2, and then 1, 2, 3. And then your chain 1, and then you'll just continue down the other side, working your 3 double crochet, chain 1 into every chain 1 space. And this is what, when you come to the seam where you have your treble crochet cluster here, you're just going to work into those chain 1 spaces. So I'm going to work round number 2 off camera, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. I've been working my 3 double crochet, chain 1 into every chain 1 space all the way around the blanket, and I've come back to the beginning, and we've made 1/2 of our corner here. So I'm just going to finish this corner by working into that beginning space here. We'll work our 3 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 1, and then to join the round I'm just going to slip stitch into the very first double crochet. And there's our final corner. And that's the end of round number 2. So I'm going to chain 1 and then cut my yarn, pull the yarn through, and we're now ready to begin working on round number 3. For round number 3, I'm changing back to the pink yarn, and I've made a slip knot and popped it on my hook, and I'm going to attach my yarn into this corner here, and I'll begin with my stacked double crochet. And then I'll work my 2 double crochet back into the same space. So there's 1, and 2. So there's my 3 double crochet. and then make a chain of 1. And for this round, we're just going to repeat the last round. So we're just going to work our 3 double crochet, chain 1 into every chain 1 space. So I'm going to move over to the next chain 1 space here and work my 3 double crochet and a chain 1. So there's 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then moving over to the next chain 1 space here, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. So you're just going to repeat the last round by working 3 double crochet, chain 1 into every chain 1 space, and when you get to each corner, you're just going to work into each corner your 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in every corner. So I'm going to work round number 3 off camera, and I'll meet you back at the beginning, and we'll close the round together and then work on the final round, round number 4. I've just come back to the beginning again here. So I've been working that sequence all the way around, so nice and simple, and I finished with my 3 double crochet into that very first chain 2 space here, and then I'm just going to chain 1, and then I'm going to join to the very first stitch here with a single crochet. And that's the end of round number 3. For round number 4, which is our final round, I'm going to work 1 single crochet back into this space here. And then work my stacked double crochet. And then I'm going to work 3 more double crochet back into the same space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So in total I have 1, 2, 3 and 4 double crochet, and then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches. So skip 1 and 2, and into the third one I'm going to work 1 single crochet. And then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, and the chain 1 space, we'll just count this as 1 stitch. So skip the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, into the third one here. I'm going to work 5 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's my shell stitch made up of 5 double crochet. And then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches. So skip 1 and 2, into the following stitch here, we'll work 1 single crochet. I'll work the sequence with you again. This is the sequence that we're going to be repeating all the way along to the next corner. So skip the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, into the following stitch, which just so happens to be a chain 1 space. We'll work our shell stitch, which is 5 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip the next 2 stitches, skip 1, 2, into the 3rd stitch, work 1 single crochet. We'll start again, skip the next 2 stitches, skip 1 and 2 into the 3rd stitch, work a shell stitch, which is 5 double crochet. So there's 1, and 5. Skip the next 2 stitches, so skip 1 and 2 into the 3rd stitch, work a single crochet. So I'm going to be working this sequence all the way along the first edge, and when I get to the first corner, which is here, I'm going to meet you back and I'll show you how to work the corner. I've been working that sequence along the top edge, and I've come to the first corner here, and into the chain 2 space in the corner I'm going to work a shell, but the shell in the corner will be made up of 8 double crochet. So I'm just going to go into that chain 2 space and work my 8 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So there's my 8 double crochet all worked into the corner. So you'll do this in the next 2 corners, and then we'll just start the sequence again, skip the next 2 stitches. So remember to count this first stitch here, it's hidden with these stitches, but you're going to skip 1, 2, and into the 3rd one, work a single crochet, and then skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the 3rd stitch, work your shell stitch made up of 5 double crochet. So there's my 5 double crochet, skip the next 2 stitches, skip 1 and 2, into that 3rd stitch, work the single crochet. So I'm just going to repeat this sequence all the way around the blanket. So once I've done that, I'll meet you back at the very beginning of the round, and I'll finish the round off with you and we'll fasten off, and that will be the end of the border of our blanket. I've been working that sequence all the way around the blanket, and I worked my last shell here and then my last single crochet, and then I'm just going to skip the next 2 stitches, so skip 1 and 2, and then into the very first corner here where we began the row, the round. We made our 4 double crochet here, so we need to complete the corner shell stitch. So I'm going to work 4 double crochet into the first corner. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's my 4 double crochet, and then to join I'm just going to come to the very first stitch here and into that first stitch join with a slip stitch, and that's our final corner completed. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and then grab your scissors and cut the yarn, pull the yarn through, and then we're just going to weave this yarn tail into the back of our blanket to hide it. That's the end of this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the little bell icon to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials that I release. Remember that the links to the free and PDF patterns and all the materials used are below in the description box. Thanks so much for watching.